We're live. We're not even going to ask. We are live.
We are live. We see it. It's red in the corner.
It's red in the corner?
Here?
No, that way.
Somewhere over here for me. Anyway.
Welcome to Wake Up and Deliver Season 2, Episode 2. 2, right? We're excited for another episode. We're going to start off like we always do. I have some special stuff for John this morning. We're going to see what his reaction is, and he doesn't know what's coming, so I like his reactions. But I'm going to start off with some morning coffee to get the brain going. And we're going to see what John thinks of it, as he always does. Okay. Specialization is a trade-off. Pursuing one course means not pursuing another. It's narrowing your focus to increase your impact. In a world of infinite knowledge and finite time, specialization is the key to unlocking mastery. It's going deep, not wide. Specialization has risks. If the world changes, what was once a valuable specialty can become obsolete, and yet we need specialists. You will want to go to a generalist to do brain surgery or a root canal. Ultimately, specialization is about where you spend your time and effort. It's how you stand out. It's choosing to be great at one thing instead of being okay at many.
So you found the most complicated quote that says niche down. Yeah, see? Yeah. No, look, yeah.
I wouldn't say that. I would say I found a quote that says you should specialize, but again, you got to be careful on your specialization. Don't be so narrow within it to when it becomes obsolete, you're stuck in that unneeded specialization.
Yeah, look, so overall, like I agree. I think, you and I talk about it enough when we're, talking about logistics and like, the value of expertise and experience and stuff like that. So I definitely think that there's a huge place and there's tons of value in having those specialties and having those areas where your knowledge is really deep. I do also like kind of agree with the quote about like the change or something like that, because the one thing that I hate seeing is when someone is like niche down or specialized so much that they keep promoting the same product or the same solution kind of no matter what, because it's like the only thing they have up their sleeve. So that's kind of where I think that there's like a line on it. But overall, I agree.
Look at John throwing up hand gestures using his hands.
Yeah, because I can.
He's been reading books to say that we'll attract more people with your hand gestures now.
Yeah, you got to bring people in, like just like let them feel comfortable so that you're not too messed up. But the real reason is actually because for the most part, it took us all 2 seasons and episode 2, because we still had some difficulties. We still had some difficulties last week, but I think Matt and I figured out most of our technical stuff. He's using better gear. I'm using better gear. That's why I'm so engaged this morning. But it also it was the last lesson that came up last night that prompted my post this morning about AI, because I called you last night bitching about it because I was trying to get this setup working for today, because that's how committed we are, guys. Sunday nights, we get ready for the show sometimes, like we do that. And I couldn't get this camera working, despite the fact that it should have been working. And I couldn't get it working, at least with like the logos and stuff like we normally do. And it was just driving me insane. Like I literally invested hours into this. I was searching different things. I was using like the chat bots,
the AIs, the Googles, everything.
All of them. Yeah. All of them.
Then you went back in time in a forum. Simple answer.
And I should have saved the guy's name and just given him a shout out, but I'm pretty sure that post was like 2 years old or something. But funny enough, the moral of the story was the fact that the AI was like kind of giving me all of the right answers, but there was this like one super important contextual piece that it just kept not mentioning. And the thing that was so frustrating with the AI, when I figured it out, I like to do this sometimes because I'm stupid, even though it doesn't do anything. I teach the bot. I'm like, hey, by the way, this is like how you fix the problem.
Please learn. Please.
Yeah, like begging it to learn. And then, in all of the AI's infinite wisdom, like, I don't know if you've ever done that. Whenever I do that, like, then the thing just responds in the most like arrogant fashion, like, oh, well, yeah, that is how it works. And yeah, that is why that works.
I didn't want to tell you because I wanted you to get to that conclusion.
Yeah, like, oh, thanks for blowing 2.5 hours of my life, ChatGPT. Like, you could have dropped that at the start and we would have been good. But anyways, so we're back. We're hired. at least when we're in our, let's call it studios / offices, where all the magic happens. So
Well, let's lately you've been talking about it because I haven't been on LinkedIn for almost a month now.
I
Uh,
know.
and I heard that you didn't like I'm not liking as much stuff. You're like, you gotta get back engaged, Matt. Like, get back into it, put something out there. And we will.
Seriously, this is the first time people have seen you in like 30 days. Well, last week
Last
too, I
week.
guess, but like they don't see your posts, like no comments. Like I was giving Matt a hard time. I was like, dude, I know you don't want to post right now. You're rethinking some stuff, strategy wise, content wise, and whatever. But I
Taking a
said,
break.
man, log in and drop a like. Let people know that you're alive. Guy's hiding anyway.
But on that point, we've been talking. You and I talked a little bit about it last night too. Is these 2025? We think you and I have been saying both of us think that it's going to be a tough year for a lot of final mile companies, a lot of mid mile, any transportation logistics companies as things are starting to shift out. And
Yeah.
part of that, you did a post on that, talking about analyzing a company and saying, hey, final mile, they're taking a beating. They had so much funding, it didn't work out. On that topic, I'm leading up to something. I have a video.
A video.
I'm gonna play a video. I came prepped. I'm gonna play the
I
video.
see. See, Matt's the
when you
real
come on early.
orchestrator. Matt's the orchestrator of the show because, like, if I have to screen share something, that's like way beyond like my level of comfort with StreamYard.
So I'm gonna play something, and I'm gonna want your take on this. And I don't know if this is gonna be a new segment. But I think it's gonna be a little bit of fun instead of just us ranting all the time. So we're gonna bring it to the stage. We're gonna play it here.
Oh God. Okay.
We're gonna take it off stage now.
All right.
We're gonna bring us back to original format now.
There you go.
Final mile is not easy, as we just saw. There's a lot of challenges and deliveries challenges there that we could have overcame. What are some things that companies who are experiencing challenges like we just saw could do to avoid those?
Well,
And I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh, it's fine. But when you're looking at that, like those things that you see there, for example, like where do you consider some of those issues? Because two or three of them look like almost like health and safety related, kind of like material handling issues, like either a pallet or something fell while someone was using a jack, and then like a couple of them were more like that in the moment delivery experience, other than the delivery drivers hitting someone or falling over or something like that. So what's specific? Like, what do you think is the challenge, or what's the challenge you're asking me about?
For me, I think a lot of it came down to training. Like the guy with the pallet jack, bringing it out, not knowing how far out he should be with that pallet jack before he lowers it. He obviously had the weight distribution incorrect. And it looked like he needed a person there supporting him as well. He's there by himself, guy on the bike going into deep water. And that's the other thing I was going to ask you. Gig workers, I don't think they get a lot of training on that aspect of it, like what to look out for.
Oh man!
So that's what I was kind of going to lead into with that. And I was hoping you'd get there.
Yeah. Well, no. Okay. So on the training side, like I agree. Imagine, and this is where like I've got like a mixed bag of opinion when it comes to like gig work and crowdsourced labor. I definitely think there's ways that you can use it. I think that there's a lot of ways that the majority of these platforms honestly completely fall short on the people. And like even in my newsletter that I just put out on Sunday, I linked these two videos to this guy that I just found randomly on YouTube. I have no idea who he is, but he's kind of funny, and he puts out delivery videos while he's doing essentially like hotshot deliveries, like for Roadie or Uber Eats or Dispatch, another platform in the States or whatever. And it really goes to show you just like someone who like the wild differences when you think about like how engaged that person is, how much they understand, to your point, like how to handle something, what do they do versus what someone else does. And this concept of training, and I know some of the platforms allege that they think they can just guardrail and gatekeep just with the app, but like there's a ton on the training side about the delivery experience. I mean, there's a whole there's a reason why Amazon has these massive now training facilities for delivery drivers slash DSPs. Like there's a reason for it. They didn't just decide to spend a few $billion for kicks because they had nothing else to spend it on. Like there's a reason they're doing it. And it's one of the biggest reasons why I say that you really have this weird mix about where you give up your control and quality of experience when you're kind of quickly farming out to whoever happened to log on type solutions.
And that doesn't just apply to final mile, which what I wanted to
Mhm.
segue kind of too. Is it also applies to the middle mile when people are using brokers or whatnot, because you want to make sure that the company that you're hiring also has some aspect of training versus just sending out a tender, but like, oh, the instructions are in the tender, right? And I
100%.
think that makes a difference between a good brokerage and a better brokerage or an excellent brokerage is the time invested they have in their vendors that they're willing to use versus finding someone off a job board and slapping a name on and be like, yeah, he'll be there in an hour, and he's picking up some critical cargo and they have no idea,
Well, sorry, to your point, because I'm sure you can add to this, but how many times have you talked to like a seasoned driver, or you'll have like, maybe two different drivers that work for the same carrier or something like that? One has got experience and the other one is new. And the new one comes in and he'll come in and he's immediately blaming, the other warehouse or the shipper or whoever else
Mhm.
why the load shifted. Oh, they didn't strap it, they didn't wrap it, they didn't do this and that, whatever. And the experienced driver will hear this, and what's probably the first thing he's gonna say? Mm, he didn't he
Didn't check.
he didn't turn properly. He stopped too fast. He did this. Like he takes all the responsibility as the driver. Rare like you just see that difference between like the inexperience and the experience about how quickly they'll shift the blame, since we were talking about that this morning, to someone else. And you're right. It comes from really, that training, that experience, really knowing how to handle those things, because just because someone can understand a concept fairly easily, i.e., the instructions, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be able to perform that task at excellence.
Yeah, and to the quote, like the specialization of that set segment. Just because you do a final mile or a gig work type of work, don't overly specialize in everything. I think the ones that are very going to be very narrow and specific on what they do, even though when it comes to transportation, trucking, uh, you know, final mile delivery, whether you're doing it a bike or walking, if you specialize in the how you do it, I think you're going to come out on top in 2025 versus someone who's very general in how they operate. Um, in this era, right? And to that point, like if you're going to be a reefer carrier, you're a very specific reefer carrier, and that's why you
Mhm.
see like great examples of when they sell these companies. These ones are get the ones that get 10 times what their value is because they're so specialized in what they do. Versus someone who's general, be like, yeah, I move all freights. Like so, if you talk to a customer, you're going, yeah, I do everything. I think from and you tell me, John, from your perspective, if you got someone come up to you and they go, well, I do everything, you're gonna be like, do you really? Like, how well do you move dairy, or how well do you move ice cream, or how well do you move apparel, how well do you what do you do when you deliver it? Like there's aspects to it that you can't be too general, and you gotta have some knowledge to that little aspect.
Yeah, I agree actually. Funny enough, like I think that there's certain categories or parallels that you can start to lump together, but even something as simple as like a grocery delivery versus like a retail store delivery, like at a mall. Very different overall experiences, right? Like a different type of requirement. Um, for example, when I was a shipper and we were doing deliveries to places like Costco and Walmart and all of the big grocery stores, there was always a tension between, do you bring it to a cooler in the back room? Do you drop it on the dock and stuff like that? Because there's mixed liability about like how far you're walking with this product. You hit someone, hurt someone, you bump into something, you hit another product, whatever, right? But at the same time, you also want to kind of balance the fact that like, hey, my product requires a certain type of handling or care, or it's easier to move with an electric lift versus a manual lift or something like that. You know what I mean? And you're trying to balance off these things. Whereas, that's one decision. And maybe you're walking, let's call it like, 100 feet, 150 feet, 300 feet on the big stores. Like, and that's where the drivers really complain. But a mall delivery, super common that you're actually hand bombing onto carts. Like
Mhm.
you're using maybe your own cart. You're walking all the way through the back tunnels of the malls. You're doing all kinds of like little drops and like you're doing back and forth like multiple times. It's way more intensive than, like some types of other store deliveries that have their own dock and you can either drop it there or whatever. So it really does matter when it comes to training and expectation, because the biggest thing when I was running that operations and the thing that I put in place was the actual standard and expectation. Because before my team started doing it, there was no actual, here's what our delivery is. It
Yeah.
just was whatever that particular driver and carrier felt they were willing to do.
And you think that's why some of these final mile gig apps are struggling to do with the succeed in the grocery delivery aspect of it? Because not only do you have to deliver it correctly, you have to pick the product correctly.
Yeah.
Right. So when you're picking a banana, people have their own method of picking a banana. It's not just a banana or a specific type of meat or whatever. And that's why like the regular canned goods or box goods might be okay, but there's still that I feel there's still that barrier for that grocery delivery and that final mile aspect where people are truly satisfied hasn't really taken off. And I know that's a big aspect of a lot of companies that want to break into, because it's a huge segment of Walmart, of Costco, and it is a nut that hasn't been cracked properly yet.
Yeah, grocery's tough. Like, I mean, look, even so I'm like a typical like Ontarian or whatever. I think that's what we are, Ontarian, whatever. I shop for the most part once a week, whereas like in Quebec, for example, it's much more common that you would find people shopping multiple times a week, right? Sort of less and fresher and blah blah blah, whatever. Point being, bananas. So bananas are like I don't know, what are they like? Any let's call it. It runs you from like $1 to $1.50 for the most part for like a bunch of bananas. Literally, my choice in bananas changes based on, do I have any left? How have my kids been eating them? Do they ask for them more? And it's like that, those little nuances alone go from how ready to eat I'm going to select those bananas when I do it on a Friday night, for example, or like a Friday afternoon or like a Saturday morning. It
Yep.
literally changes. And like, good luck putting that in Instacart. Oh, my kids have been off the banana and peanut butter sandwiches or something like that, so I need more green. Like, you can't account for all of this nuance. Like, to your point, it makes it very difficult.
It makes it very difficult, right? And it's less of an impulse buying, or when when you're hungry, ordering on Instacart, it's gonna be a different purchase, and what delivery, what you're expecting too, right? That's why I feel like that's gonna be a tough nut still in 2025 for a lot of companies to break into, and it's gonna be curious to see how well other companies get around that.
Yeah, for sure. You should do me a favor after. I know they're long and you're super busy right now, but go in the newsletter and grab the videos that I posted. I'll put them actually in the comments of this after the show. But like, watch what this person really highlights. The general message at the end of the video is like, get all the apps, be on all of the apps to make the most amount of money. And of course, from a driver perspective and a freelancer in that way, that makes total sense. And that's like, super sound advice if you're thinking from a money perspective. But to your point about like the gig workers and training and stuff like that, but that also means that every platform has people working for them that work for everybody else, which means your standards or your expectation or your promise as a provider is getting so muddy and murky because it's like a blend of what everybody else says, but more importantly, it's a blend of what everybody else expects. So if platforms start lowering their standards, or like, people can cut corners and they can do things in maybe a less than ideal way, but no one's saying anything and it gets accepted and it keeps getting, compensated for whatever, that becomes your standard because that same person that's on your app is now on the competitor's app, and it's on the 29 other competitors' apps that person is using, over the course of the day, week, month, or whatever it happens to be.
Where's this video in your newsletter?
Where did I put it? It is down towards the bottom in the section where I'm talking about retailer guidance. I think it's in a quote block, like a yellow block. I think it says delivery video 1, delivery video 2. They're 10-minute videos. You can't just throw them up. So like they're too long just to throw, but like, you want to grab the gist of understanding the fact that how this person is working, how they're switching from different apps, how they're encouraging obviously everybody to work on apps, which again, I completely understand. And I'm not begrudging the the YouTuber and the delivery person and stuff like that. But it really just highlights this whole concept of these on-demand / hotshot deliveries, how people are interacting and interfacing with the gig economy. I just thought it was really interesting. I'd never heard of this person. It came up while I was doing that research for Pandion, and there we go. Yeah, there he is. He's
I'll,
funny.
I'll do a quick little tidbit just for context for everybody.
He does
else.
good videos. I like them actually.
Yep.
He's probably too fast for the stream. So right now he's talking about how he made $85 in an hour, which ends up being one order, by the way. But
Oh, really?
yeah, and he drives 56 miles for it. So there's something around rate per mile that does not get discussed in these videos. But anyways, but this is actually kind of funny. So I'll just preface this. So he goes into a Sherwin-Williams, right? So this $85 order that's 56 miles is actually a store-to-store transfer from one Sherwin-Williams to another.
Okay.
And obviously it's for a customer order. So yeah, okay, they paid $86 to get this done. But I would offer that, the vast majority of people, especially if you're talking direct to consumer or consumer product stuff, like directly, one, Sherwin-Williams is a little bit more expensive. You're paying for some premium paint there usually. And then they're doing that to obviously satisfy a customer, probably a customer that's doing a bigger project, maybe.
I didn't even know people were using gig work like this to do a transfer like that.
Yeah, a couple of his videos are actually essentially B2B deliveries. I thought it was kind of interesting to see that. But like, look at this, look at the amount of driving he's going on. Like, dude just drove 56 miles, like with 6 cans of paint, or 8 maybe, I think is probably what's in there. And again, like, that's either because it's like an emergency that the store needed it because they can't sell, because they don't have those are either the base or they're already colored and they can't sell it, or it's for a specific customer job or project. So they're willing to pay whatever it is because it's all marked up. But that type of activity is nowhere near sustainable for Happy Meals and a $7 or a $12 shirt.
No, and curious to think, what do you think the cost would have been prior to gig work for someone like this to get done? Either an employee had to waste half a day to drive out and deliver it because it was an in-store delivery, or they had to pay for a FedEx or a bigger.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure this same thing under a traditional model would be like if they paid him $85 for it or whatever it was.
27, I think it just said.
One of them. Okay, whichever one it happened to. I don't
13
know. Oh, that
miles.
was okay. No, that's his second order. So that's his second order. It was the first one, but like it was $85, I'm sure, for 56 miles. I research my stuff, usually when I write. So anyways, but the point being is that it probably would have been 2 to 3 times that amount with a traditional carrier in the past. But imagine this is still another delivery. It's 13 miles, $27, which is crazy. It's 3 items. I was actually kind of surprised by this one. I was shocked that Walmart was willing to get into a situation where they were paying $27 for this delivery. I was pretty surprised by that.
And what do you think? Is it a backlog piece where they don't have enough of the ability to deliver it, or has been sitting too long, or they have a certain obligation? Like most places, like a waterfall effect. Like you try to go through your own level, and if you can't do it, it kind of goes down. Eventually, you got to pay out someone to get it delivered because it's
that's the thing, though, is that the interesting thing with a lot of these gig platforms and what they don't really tell you is that often when you see something like this, like, oh, it's $27 and it's coming from Walmart and it's a D2C order, like that sounds like a great business, except it's usually not the retailer who's paying for that. It's the actual delivery company, because they're the ones who've actually made the delivery promise. So Walmart might be paying $7 or $10. Let's just say whatever it might be. But if no one is claiming that order, that company knows that, to your point, they can't sustain failures and they can't have ongoing failures. So they keep kind of ratcheting it up until someone claims the offer. It's actually a big problem with one of the bigger gig work platforms that makes a lot of noise on LinkedIn and stuff like that, where they are regularly having people like, drivers, having those driver to driver conversations that are like, don't accept until, which essentially just drives up the cost, right? Which then they either try to pass back on to consumers in some way, or they're trying to get more from the retailers. But the problem is that so many people are just not interested in doing work for, sub minimum wage when it breaks out, or for like these dollar a mile or 80 cent a mile type compensations.
Well, here's your $45 example: 4 miles, 13 items, $45.
Yeah, like I can tell you straight up, there's no way Walmart was probably the one paying that. Like, especially on like Roadie and stuff like that. Like I know they ramp up their stuff when they need to get it done.
Yeah. Well,
this one. This one, actually, he's at Home Depot. This one might have been interesting. I saw. Oh, this one's funny because it actually is him delivering a bunch of storage bins. So this is kind of. I thought this one could have actually commanded a bit of a premium just because it was essentially oversized. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't seem that big, but like for a regular consumer to come to their car, like he just gets it in and then he throws the tops in the back seat and stuff like that. But I mean, for a lot of people, that might not be something that they want to do themselves or can do themselves. I still thought it was a decent payout for how close it was to the store. So again, maybe no one was claiming it, no one was interested because they saw it was oversized or whatever, and then he finally jumped on it.
That's an interesting strategy, actually, from a consumer perspective. Is you evaluate how much time you spend to make or pick up an item, and is it
Mhm.
worth it yourself doing it, or would you rather just pay someone? And I don't think I've ever thought about it that way. Like if I'm gonna go buy some, I don't know, over something oversized, like you just mentioned, I need a pickup truck. Do I go rent a pickup truck, or do I just pay a service and pay the extra? You know,
Really? That's like 100% my personal decision when I'm doing it. Like
never once.
really at a consumer level, that's like always my thing. It's like how much effort, time, or resources, or challenge, even like frustration, is it going to be for me to do? And then it's like, is it worth 50 or $100 essentially to not deal with any of that? Like it's very much like a personal thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, for some things it is like, whatever, whether it's some yard work or whatever, I'll get someone else to do it versus me spending too much time. But I've never really thought about that on the delivery or pickup aspect of items.
Mm.
Like I like the experience of. It's funny enough, I like the experience of going to a store and picking out a TV, even though I might not have room in my car for that TV in there. Then I'll pay for that delivery service. But in the onset, really, I picked the same TV that I did my research online for, and I could have just had it delivered and saved myself that hour because I live out in the boons of driving back and forth to that store and figuring it out.
I was sorry. That made me just randomly think about Christmas. And I was like, go to the mall and get the shirt. And your immediate response was like, do you know how far away the mall is for
It's
me?
pretty far. I'm not going to the mall.
Anyway, so to your point though, I think what that just highlights is again, your how you execute becomes the customer experience. And even if you have the slickest platform and you have the best app and stuff like that, that whole customer slash consumer experience becomes dominated by who the person is, and even more of an extension of that, what kind of day they're having, right? And
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 how
I
they're
think that
trained.
that's a really challenging thing.
And how they're trained and that training
Yeah.
aspect of it too, right? Because you might have a great platform, but if you don't have a training aspect to qualify that driver to do the right thing, and then they come out very frustrated and they lose their cool on the customer as they're delivering it. Like, why did you order these bins? It barely got them into my truck. Blah 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 blah. That ruins your platform and app because that
Mhm.
will a retailer will drop you quicker on that aspect. And then we are at time. So final words, John, with our hand gestures today, all our cool
Hand
stuff,
gestures, like better
videos,
video.
live, everything. Like we were engaged today. We'll
Oh
see
yeah,
if it
like
resonate.
you're welcome for Monday. Start your day off right and stuff like that.
To wake up
No,
and deliver.
oh yeah, it was delivered. It was delivered today, like just on a platter. Um, okay, sorry. To bring it all the way back though to to how you opened. Very seriously, 2025 is going to be extremely challenging for the logistics space. Transportation, delivery, and warehousing are all really dealing with a lot of um, price and cost challenges. And you have these big nationals that are spending just billions and billions of dollars. I shouldn't say just nationals, but like retailers too, like Walmart, because they got to get in there. They're just spending billions of dollars to drive huge amounts of infrastructure, and you know they're going to set expectations in the market, and it's going to be harder to keep up with. Pandion was the company that went out of business. I'll say it because like they're out of business. I don't normally name names when I do, but I said back in November that stuff was going to start happening, and the amount of feedback and people like emailing me, DMing me, and whatever, being like, "Oh my god, do you know X, Y, and Z is also having these problems?" Like 2025 is going to get really rough, and it's super important, and that's why in that newsletter I put like, hey, if you're a retailer, here's things that you should be kind of questioning, and if you're a service provider, like here's things you need to be doing, just because of the fact that the days of trying to outrun sloppy are like way behind. Like they're gone. Like they're way gone.
and we've talked about it before, and I guess I'll have the final word, and maybe we'll talk about it next week. Is retailers should do more of a vetting process of their providers than just doing an RFQ and having that number there. Really get into the granular level of how well is the company doing that you're hiring. What is their model? What are they looking for? Versus like, hey, yeah, they got the lowest price, they'll deliver, but they might not be there in 3 months, and you're going to be left hanging. And that price adjustment for you might be a lot worse as a retailer because the market has now changed and they know a big player's out in the running. So
Yeah.
be mindful.
So just to get your reaction on it, since you haven't been on LinkedIn so much. So Pandion, okay, last mile kind of provider, which was more just like an aggregator, but anyway, that's beside the point. Raised $41 million in March 2024, and they are bankrupt and gone and ceased operations at the start of January 2025. $40 million, 10 months.
They did something wrong. Maybe we'll spend next week. We'll spend time dissecting that company and what could have they have done in that whole year. And maybe we'll find someone to join us and talk about it.
Yeah, or you can read the newsletter and find out. No, I'm joking, but yeah, we can.
Self-plug.
No,
I'm John. I don't do plugs. However, read my newsletter, everybody.
It's free. It's free, and it's it's got all kinds of interesting things that I don't.
And then this week, the QR code is the correct one. It's not to John's personal website.
More technical challenges last week, like 2 minutes before the show. Matt's like, get the QR code up. And like I've got like lots of files on my computer, and I accidentally put the QR code up for my site and not our YouTube channel. So this is our YouTube channel where we have all of our past shows. We put shorts up.
We should ask John.
Job, like, cutting. Yeah,
John, how well his newsletter did in the past week because of that QR code.
That's not the point. Anyways, the point being is like go to our YouTube channel here. Watch some of the older stuff. We put up the shorts. Matt does actually a really good job of repurposing it. So we take like, the 30-second gems that, were the most hard hitting from things like this. We get those up, plus posting other types of things that you may not have seen in the LinkedIn feed just because things go fast and content's fast these days.
Exactly. And on that note, we'll see you next week at Wake Up and Deliver with Matt and John. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.